I started drawing Hisao here thinking the topic of this video is going to be something that occurred to me as I was driving through Osaka this week, just gone. But actually, as I started talking, I realised that perhaps I had another topic which I'd like to talk about, and that is on character development. And some people might be curious as to, like, how did I come up with my style? How did I develop my characters and this kind of stuff? So, going to try and keep this video short and snappy, like I hope most of my videos on this channel are, and just get to the point. So, that said, I think how I developed my characters was very much dependent on my story, Future Saviours, which you can read by following the links in the video description. There's a few ways you can do so for free, and if you want to read ahead of what I'm releasing for free, I've also got a Patreon as well, which a lot of really rad people have already subscribed to, which is great. So, but yeah, no pressure either way. But the story of Future Saviours is what really probably had a big impact on my style, devising my style. The story of Future Saviours has plenty of quite serious and quite weighty moments in it, shall we say. And so I felt that the exaggerated eye look of, sort of popular manga and anime these days wouldn't really be in keeping. I felt that I needed to have a style that was somewhere in between relatively straightforward for me to draw, still kind of got my own little thing going on with it, shall we say, but also be able to carry those more serious moments of the story. That's not to say that you can't write a serious story with exaggerated eyes, but that was just my own personal decision. I just decided that's how I wanted to proceed with things. So my story is probably the biggest influence on how I wanted to develop my style. In terms of how it emerged, so in short, when I came to Japan 4 years ago in 2020, I was very much a lapsed artist, and therefore I was spending a lot of time on all the basics. And, I was just every evening after work or thereabouts, I was practicing for maybe half an hour, drawing hands, bodies, proportions, all this kind of stuff. So I was putting a lot of work into really trying to improve my skills. So that was where I was making a very conscious effort. But in terms of making a conscious effort that involved me going like, oh, what's my style? I didn't really work like that at all. But what began to happen as I began to really work on my overall skills, that I would doodle more. And naturally, I used to doodle my favourite characters a lot. And one of my favourite manga artists is Rumiko Takahashi. She wrote Urusai Yatsura, Lama Nibu no Ichi, Lama 1/2, Mezonikoku, Inuyasha, Mao, and so many others. She's prolific. And so I just naturally drew the characters that I liked. And then one day, I'd finished work for the day. I was still at work, but I had no more classes. And so I just idly doodled Shippo-chan from Inuyasha, like his hair, with like the back of his hair, with the front of Lanma's hair, with like Kunokodachi's eyes from Lama Nibu no Ichi. And I was like, oh, wow, there's something in that. Because Kunokodachi's eyes are a little bit less exaggerated than some of the other characters in Lama 1/2. They're just a little bit smaller. And I thought there's something in that. And so what I began to do in the evenings as I was practicing drawing, sort of drawing my circles and, roughly, working out the proportions and all this kind of stuff, and going through sort of this process. And you know how it goes when you're sort of learning to draw the manga style. It's not very good, but you get the idea, don't you? You sort of spend a lot of time doing this kind of stuff. And so over time, I began to go like, my eye style is beginning to develop along the lines of that sort of idle doodle that I did. And eventually I sort of came across sort of this initially, where the iris and pupil was sort of kind of defined like this. There's like a, not quite circle, but it was like this kind of idea, like here. And then over time, that became simplified into just dropping this side of the iris and just on one side. I kind of, to myself, refer to it as a bit like a cat's eye look. I don't think it is, but that really worked for me because it helped me really define Saki, because she's quite, well, she is a tomboyish character, but it allowed me to define her gender a little bit more than perhaps other aspects of her come across, because she always wears really baggy clothes, and to be honest with you, that is a very conscious decision on my part, because I didn't want to just, you know, develop a character that was there for a certain range of the audience, shall we say. I don't want to say that I deliberately designed it that way just to purposely subvert, you know, the expectation or, you know, whatever, but there is a little bit of that in it. But ultimately I just find more connection with drawing a character like Saki personally. But these eyes with these pronounced eyelashes allowed me to go like, well, yeah, that's, you know, you should be able to tell where she's, you know, who she is in a way from that. Although at the very start of when Hisao and Saki meet, it will be kind of funny to say, but I'm not going to spoil that. But then that allowed me to develop the eyes for characters like Kaito. So I've got three main characters. I've got Hisao, we've got Saki. There's just a very basic version of Saki there. You can see the back of Shibo's hair there, the front of Lama's hair, and the general way that I went. You can even see there that this style even works if you've just got this kind of thing going on, and you just do a single line, like so. So it's, yeah, it's really rad how that came out. But anyway, so yeah, there's three main characters: Saki, Kaito, and Hisao. So, so for example, with Kaito's eyes, they've got a little bit of an arch to them, a little bit like Saki's, but no eyelashes, and that fits with the fact that Kaito is younger. Kaito is about 19 or 20 when he first appears in the manga. Hisao is 37, deliberately, because that is my age when I first came to Japan and was devising the story of Future Saviors. And the story of Future Saviors is very much born out of my experience of where I was in my life at that particular point in time, particularly Hisao's character. But I'm not going to go into all of that in this video. But from that, I was able to sort of slightly create Hisao's eyes, which have just got a little bit more angle to them, you know, sort of like so, little angle, and then come back in again at the corner of the eyes. So a little bit different, but broadly the same idea, and the iris and the pupil is the same. And sometimes when I'm drawing slightly more detailed pictures, I actually just slightly extend the pupil with just a little hook here, like so. It just adds a little bit of detail, especially if I'm doing colour. It just allows me somewhere to shade the iris. That's that. But in terms of otherwise developing the characters, the age is important. So Kaito's face is a little less angular than Hisao's, so he doesn't have quite so pronounced a square jaw. He doesn't have like a little pronounced chin that Hisao has, for example, and that sort of separates the age a little bit between the two of them. In terms of everything else like hair, fashion, all these other aspects, that very much came from the story, and also influences way beyond manga and anime. You know, I very much look to my favourite TV programmes, movies, Western comics as well. Some of you who may see the little bit of work that I've been putting out will notice that there are at times that some of my style has more in common with a more Western graphic novel style than it does with manga, but I like that. So, but yeah, all those aspects help me develop the characters, and through that, my style. And I think some of that appreciation of the Western graphic novel style does come out sometimes, especially more recently in my style, where things have begun to get a little bit more angular, a little bit less I don't know. These outlines are just a little bit more angular. And the reason for that is because I can use the chisel nib of a Copic marker to sort of draw those kinds of styles of graphics, I suppose, and that's beginning to filter into the work as well. So I suppose in summary what I'm saying is that a lot of this is happy accident and just progressively working on your characters and your story. I don't think, apart from me really sitting down to improve my drawing standards, I didn't sit down one day and go like, I've got to develop my style. What is my style? It just kind of began to emerge, and that sort of meeting of the kind of style that I liked from the manga artists I liked, my story, my character idea in my head, the storyline, all of this began to merge together along with my overall likes and so forth, and through that in time it's all emerged. And some of you who have been following Future Savers for a while now will be just like, oh wow, Hisao's looks changed a bit. And the simple reason why it's changed is because I think it's very important not to fall in the trap that I often do, I'm not immune to this, of thinking like your first idea is a great idea. Your first idea is a first idea, and it may well be very similar to what the final idea is, but don't get too invested in it, because you might think like, oh yeah, I put a lot of work into that, and actually it's not that bad, and you start going with it. But if, like me, you're going to be developing a story with these characters, you don't want to commit to something and then it's just like, oh shit, actually I think I could have done a better job, because then you're kind of stuck with that design. So yeah, and then one of the reasons why Hisao's character has taken a long time for me to nail down is because the start of Future Savers doesn't feature him. So I've been able to basically put him on the back burner, along with Kaito to some extent, whose design has changed somewhat as well. Mostly in the hair, to be honest with you, in Kaito's sense. For Hisao, yeah, it's probably mostly in the hair as well, and a little bit in the eyes as well. But yeah, don't get too fixated on your first idea being the final idea. Just keep on progressively working on things. That's my advice. It's yeah, don't commit to the first thing you do. But yeah, don't stress it. Enjoy the process, exploring your imagination and seeing what comes out, because yeah, you shouldn't be pressured in this, and that might be the topic that I thought I was going to talk about when I was driving through Osaka recently, about the pressure that social media and being visible puts on us as artists and as just general human beings in this world. So I hope that helps somewhat. If you've got any questions, throw them down in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. Or if you've got any thoughts or responses to this video, that would be awesome. Also, if you want to read the manga, again, like I say, all the links are in the video description. You can read it for free. I put out a page every Saturday on Instagram, X, and Pixiv. And if there's any other places you'd like to read it, let me know in the comments. If you want to actually read more of it than I'm releasing for free, like I say, there's a Patreon that can help support me as an artist as well. Yeah, but no pressure one way or the other. I'm committed to putting out these videos for everybody and everybody's benefit. Yeah, that's about it for this one. Hope you're all doing really well, and I'll catch you in another one of these. Take care. Bye-bye.